Hello everyone, we are back. Oh, looks like I'm not muted. Alright, it's Zoom telling me that I'm muted, never mind. Alright guys, we are back. Hello everybody, I hope everybody's doing well. It is Gratitude Tuesday today, and as you can see the stream looks a little bit different. Partly for the reason that I'm moving soon and I have to start sort of tearing down my whole setup that I've got here. But also partly because my stream room has been getting really warm and I wanted to have a way to have a window open and have a little bit more light in the place as well. So looking a little bit different, but that's fine. We got the webcam in a slightly different place, and we'll see how this works out today. And hey, Kath, I am very glad you were looking forward to the stream all day. I'm happy to hear that. We're happy to have you back again. Happy to have Geek Chic in here as well. Looking forward to a chat with Jessica later on today. And I am glad that you had a good day at work. That is really good. You had a lot of positive experiences. That is awesome. That's really good to hear. For me, I am, as always, I am grateful that I get to do this. I'm grateful that I get to spend time with all of you, and I'm grateful that streaming has provided a really cool outlet for me. I'm grateful for a lot of things. The first things on my gratitude list. Oh, let me turn this music down a little bit because it might be a little loud for you guys. There we go. First things on my gratitude list, my gratitude journal every day are always my wife, my cats, my health. 3 things. I'm glad that I'm healthy. I'm feeling pretty good health-wise lately. Got in a workout this morning. I'm always grateful for my cats. They are the amazing serotonin boosters that really add a sense of sort of joy to my everyday, I think. And I'm grateful for my wife. I'm not sure if she's in chat right now. She last I saw her, she was playing Animal Crossing just down the hall. So she might be in chat, she might not be, but I'm very grateful for her. And yeah, it's a good day. I'm also kind of liking having I have my window open in front of me, or like a little bit open. It's weird living in Vegas because I sort of forget that, you know, half the year having the window open is a very valid option, you know. If you open the windows during the summer, you're going to get that that 100-degree heat. It's going to invade the house pretty quickly, but this time of year, open windows, very good. So I hope you guys don't get any background noise. I don't think you are, from what I can tell right now, just from the audio levels. But if you do get any background noise, if you hear construction work, or if you hear like some guy was doing something, oh, there you go. You probably just heard some background noise. That was like some guy honking his horn out on the street outside. So here, you know, that's how it goes. We might get the occasional interruption there, but I think we should be good. Oh, stream is lagging. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm not gonna get any. I'm not getting any messages about dropped frames or anything. So maybe it's on your end. I don't know. I'd love some 100-degree heat right now. It's sub 40. Welcome, Jason, by the way. Good to have you back with us. Nice to see you. Yeah, sub 40 is cold. It is like, what is it here today? It's like 60? It's 59 today. So 59 degrees in Vegas. Love this winter weather. Half the year here in Vegas is just fantastic. I love the weather here in the winter, but the other half of the year it gets a little more difficult. So coming up today on stream, what we have, an hour from now, we have Ask a Neuroscientist, our first episode with Dr. Rob Tarzwell. Excited for that. He was my first guest on Mental Health Chat. He was my first interview on this channel. And I'm looking forward to doing a regular show with him. You know, he's a very, very knowledgeable guy about mental health and the science behind it all, since he is an actual neuroscientist, practicing neuroscientist. And I'm really excited to see, you know, what kind of questions we get and what sort of discussions we're going to have on this show on a regular basis. Me pays for the internet. Also, me has bad internet. I am raging. Yeah, there's one thing that I find to be consistently true is there's nothing more irritating than when technology doesn't work, right? When technology doesn't work, it is the most frustrating thing. And when the internet doesn't work, when so much of our technology depends on the internet, that's always that's always frustrating as well. So I can sympathize there, Kath. But hey, something to potentially cheer you up is, check it out. We have an actual, this channel now has an actual official ban hammer, a physical ban hammer. Look, right here. This is the ban hammer from now on, guys, okay? And when we get trolls, we bring out this ban hammer and they get banned. And that's how it works. I'm thinking of like painting this in some kind of fancy color scheme. Because I feel like this looks a bit, you know, bland right now. But I think that we need a full-on, you know, paint job on this hammer, and the ban hammer is going to be a regular thing on this stream. Yeah, the hammer is pretty dope. By the way, props to you for not being a native English speaker, but also understanding how to use the word dope. Your English is really, really good. Honestly, can't tell that you're not a native English speaker from your typing, Kath. So good job. And I've spent like my degree is in languages, so I've spent a lot of time with people who aren't native English speakers, and I've done a lot of you know, studying of language, and honestly, I can't tell. So good job. But hey, you're European, right? I mean, the Netherlands, Belgium, everywhere in Scandinavia, they all have great English teaching. So all you guys speak better English than most of us. So I couldn't say I'm surprised. Learn through television and music. Good ways to learn. Translating English songs. Wow, yeah, that's cool. Yeah, when I was living in France, I used to practice by watching French movies. Yeah, I enjoy a lot of French cinema, actually, and it's been a while since I watched a movie in French, but language learning through things like that is really fun. When I was in France, I was working in a high school. I was working as an English assistant because it was part of my college degree, and I actually taught classes English using episodes of Futurama. So I showed them the pilot episode of Futurama and got them to use it as a way to study English, because most of them had never seen Futurama before. Most it's not popular in France. You know, it wasn't really available. So I taught English using Futurama, which was kind of fun. I'm super into music, so I want to really understand the meaning of the song. Cool, yeah, that's awesome. It's nice to be able to kind of get more out of something that you're already interested in by sort of connecting with it a little deeper. So yeah, I'm glad you got so much out of it. I want to fill you guys in what you can see in the bottom right corner of the screen right now. So basically in November, I was really bad at like following through on sort of like promoting the goals that we have on the stream and things like that, right? So I want to explain these two goals that we have right now. The first one, charity donations. What we're doing is, between now and Christmas, or between now and the end of, well, it's going to be basically between now and Christmas, because I'm not going to have any streams between Christmas and the New Year, because I gotta move to my new house. Between now and Christmas, December 25th, any donations to this channel are going to go to RAD, which is a charity, Rise Above the Disorder, it's called. Provides access to mental health services for people who don't have that access, people who can't afford them, or people who don't have them in their area, things like that. And I'm going to be matching all those donations. So right now we don't have a lot. We've got like $11 right there. So initial goal $50, and we want to try to get as high as we can, because I'm going to match all those donations. So that's the first goal, charity donations. Second goal is subs. It's a simple sub goal, 25 subs in December. And if we get that, we get a chess stream. So I'm gonna play some chess. I haven't played chess in a long time, but there's been a lot of talk about chess lately because of that show, The Queen's Gambit. Yeah, I figured, you know, maybe people want to see some chess instead of some video games at some point. Maybe we'll do that. So that's going to be another goal that we have for December. So we met our sub goals in October. We did really well in October, but then I think November was weird because like I think I started attributing a lot of the slowdown in traffic and things like that to potentially just I don't know. I thought that it was a question of what games I was playing in a lot of ways. I thought that the fact that I was no longer playing The Last of Us Part 2 had a lot to do with it. But I'm not sure that's necessarily the case. I think what was actually happening was my my energy level on stream was lower. You know, I think that my stream room was really warm and I was doing long streams and I was struggling to keep my energy up and to sort of maintain the dynamic of the stream all the way through. And I think we were getting probably a lot of periods of the gaming portion of the stream where, you know, people weren't people might be coming in, but they weren't sticking around. And I think that the change there that was needed was not necessarily for me to go back to playing Last of Us Part 2 or anything like that, but like just to make sure that I had the right kind of energy, you know. Somebody even said yesterday, 08 Grinder in chat said that he could tell when I was doing the gaming segment later in the day when I had a chance to take a break from stream for a couple hours. He said he could actually tell that I had more energy or that I was more sort of alert and wasn't so tired. So I think that these shorter streams, especially ones that just give me a chance to keep my energy level up, I think that's going to be better for the stream overall. But yeah, Jason, no worries, man. It's totally okay. The difficulty that I have is I want to try like streaming at different times. You know, I want to experiment a little bit with seeing what kind of variation I get in viewership when I stream at different times. Maybe do some evening streams here and there. It's definitely not out of the question that I'll do some Sunday streams. Certainly this Sunday, streaming the World Series of Poker main event this Sunday. So that's gonna be a fun one. But yeah, I'm gonna experiment. I'm gonna find a little bit of flexibility probably. These excuse me, these segments in the early portion of the day are obviously the segment that is more aimed at mental health content specifically, and then the gaming segments, they can kind of be fitted in around what else we're doing. So yeah, we'll see how it goes moving forward. We had a good stream yesterday. I did episode number 2 of Mental Methods, which is the new show that I'm putting out, where I share some of the methodologies and understandings about the inner workings of the mind that I think I've learned over the course of my poker career. And that went well. We talked about understanding control, and so that episode is going to be up on YouTube soon. I'm still ironing certain stuff out with regard to whether or not streams go up on YouTube and when they go up and getting them edited and things like that. But right now we are live on Twitch and YouTube, so this will go up on YouTube. This will be on YouTube right away, and then we'll get an edited version of it up pretty soon, I think. So hoping to sort of settle into a rhythm where we have edited versions of all the streams, or edited versions of all the mental health streams that go on Twitch, that go on YouTube, so that they can stay up permanently, as opposed to on Twitch where they go down, they come down after 2 weeks. That's the plan. Hey, Cromalroth, hello. Hope you're doing well. Good to see you. I hope that you have some things to be grateful for this Gratitude Tuesday, and that you're enjoying yourself here in the lead up to the holidays. I should get some holiday stuff around here. I should get, like, I don't have any holiday decorations. But the problem is because I'm moving like 3 days after Christmas. If I decorate this place for the holidays, I then have to tear it all down right away and then pack it all up and pack all the rest of the stuff up too. And it's just going to be a lot of work, you know. So not 100% sure whether we're actually going to get the holiday feel going on, but we'll see. See if I have some decorations I can throw up in here. We'll see. But yeah, guys. Oh, wait a minute. I think I didn't edit the stream tags for today. Did I edit the stream tags? I don't know what the tags are right now. Show advanced settings. Ah, there we go. Twitch game, just chatting. Okay, no, we got the tags. That's good. Category. Oh, no, that's not right. Should put the Charlie Brown tree on that small bookcase. Yes, that's a good idea. That's a very good idea. I should do that. Let's call it education. Update. There we go. Hello, Final Table Boy. Welcome, welcome. Crow says I'm struggling really pretty hard right now with multiple symptoms. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, man. I feel you. And yeah, that's really, if you have people who have taken you in and who've helped you out, that's something to really be grateful for. That's really awesome. Hopefully, we can help you out and alleviate some of those symptoms. Hey, good evening, Italine. Good evening, Holga. My man. Hope you're doing well. Hope things are good for you. Oh, wow, there's some guys yelling outside in the street. There's like a construction site basically across the street from me, so every now and again you guys might hear me react to something that you can't hear. You might hear me react to something weird going on outside. Can borderline either share traits of schizophrenia or be comorbid? That is the kind of question that might be appropriate for Dr. Rob Tarzwell, who's going to be here in 40 minutes time for Ask a Neuroscientist. Personally, I am not particularly familiar with borderline or its relationship with schizophrenia, but Dr. Rob very well may be. And Ask a Neuroscientist is a great opportunity for questions about things like that, questions about specific conditions maybe that go a little bit beyond that depression or anxiety. So stick around. I'm doing good, thanks for asking. Just came back from my evening walk. Yeah, nice. Evening walk is a good thing. It's got to be cold where you are right now though, right? It's got to be cold in Germany this time of year. It's cold in most places in the US, honestly, as well. I'm just lucky that I'm in Vegas and it's not that bad. It gets down to sub 40 overnight. Like it gets down to, I guess, Celsius. It would be maybe 0 to 6, possibly something like that. But it doesn't get that cold, really. It doesn't really go sub-zero. And during the day, it's a nice 60 degrees like it is right now, or which would be about 15 Celsius. I love it. Oh, you like the cold? Okay. People with borderline can experience psychosis under stress. Interesting. Yeah, I've known one person personally with borderline, and that person I haven't seen in years. But I think that it's kind of one of those illnesses that's not particularly well understood, I guess. Certainly I'm not as familiar with it, and I think a lot of people aren't as familiar with it as they are with something like depression or anxiety, stuff like that. I think it's easier for people to identify people in their own lives who've suffered from depression or who've suffered from anxiety than it is to maybe identify when somebody might be suffering from symptoms of something like borderline. Smithy, good evening. Welcome, my friend. Hope you're doing well on this Gratitude Tuesday. Hope you have something to be grateful for today. Good to have you back. I can already feel the difference it makes here, having the window open and having, you know, having a little bit more light, and like I like this. I like this vibe, guys. I think that when I move, when I set up a new stream room. Thank you for the sub, Eterline. 1 more month. I appreciate it. Round of applause for my man, Holger. Appreciate it. That's one of those 25 subs that we need for the chess stream. That's one. That's good, guys. Thank you very much, Holger. I've struggled with BPD all my life and didn't know until a few years ago. Wow, that's got to be rough. I'm sorry, man. I think there's like a lot of instances that I can pinpoint to, or instances that I've heard of where people have kind of gone a long time without knowing that they had a certain condition. You know, for me, like oh, something happened. That was weird. I got muted. Hey, Heiser, welcome. I should be back now. Cricket's hearing music. Now I'm back. Okay. Yeah, everybody's saying no mic. I think I'm back. That's weird. I don't know what happened just there. I think yeah, that was really strange. Something. So I was clicking on the chat box on my screen here to try to like slightly shift it up the screen, but I shouldn't have done that because evidently that had some impact on my mic somehow. I don't know what happened, but yeah, we're back. We're back, and welcome, Heiser Flipper. All the regulars are here. Final Table Boys here. Heiser Flipper's here. Eterline's here. Smithy's here. Cricket's here. Kath is here. Thank you for the follow, D Benages. Welcome, welcome. Thank you for the follow. Appreciate you being here. Welcome to the community. We're happy to have you. Can I recommend a YouTuber? No, you can absolutely go ahead. You can recommend whatever you like. Whatever you think will help somebody, feel free to recommend it. The only thing I ask is that we try to be cautious in how we talk about medications, because we don't want to sort of give people the impression of like we're telling them what medication they should take, right? Psychiatrists should decide that, so we want to be cautious in that, but we want to do whatever we think can help people here for sure. Worst thing that I struggle with is memories. They're devastating to deal with. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Have you heard of a thing called EMDR? Because if you haven't, I would research that, because that's a process, a psychological process that can be used to deal with traumatic memories, and it's been really helpful for me, and it's been helpful, I think, for Cricket, who's in chat as well, although it was very hard for her. I would research that. That might be worth something thinking about. So Deep and Ages says, hi Marcus. Who's Marcus? Is there someone in chat called Marcus? I don't know who we're talking about there, but hello to Marcus, if there's a Marcus out there. Welcome to whoever Marcus is. I follow Sammy Marie Grimm on YouTube. She deals with BPD and also hallucinations. Oh, that's cool. Sorry, Matt. Oh, are you typed Marcus instead of Matt? Sorry, Matt. I'm Rosa Melanito. Okay. I'm not. I don't recognize the name. Sorry, I feel like maybe I should recognize it, but anyway, we're glad to have you here. Marcus, Rosa, all these names. We're glad to have all the people in here. And we've got about half an hour, just over half an hour, to our first episode of Ask a Neuroscientist. So I'm excited for this. Get your questions ready, guys. You can feel free to ask Dr. Rob anything that you like about the science of mental health, because he's very, very qualified in that area. Here we go. Here we go. What, Smithy? Are we talking about this? Because are we talking about the band hammer? Because this is the band hammer. I don't know if you were here when I showed it, but I don't think we're gonna need to get the band hammer out. I don't think Deep in Ages is trolling us. I think we're good. It's fine. It's fine. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this as well. Dr. Rob was great when we had him on the first time. He was our first interview on this show, or on this channel. Yeah, I have some questions for him. I hope you guys have some questions for him. He has done I'm gonna actually drop the link to his YouTube channel in the chat, because his YouTube is really interesting. I think he stopped doing it years ago. I don't think he's done it. He's updated it recently, but there's a lot of really cool videos on there. It's called 1 Minute Medical School. There we go. That's the channel.
Fibromyalgia comes from fibromyalgia.
There we go. So, there we go. There's Twitch chat. All right. So that is Rob. That is Dr. Rob's YouTube channel. We are here with Soy Calvito analyzing Twitch people. Analyzing Twitch people. What kind of analysis are you doing? And who is Soy Calvito? I don't know who Soy Calvito is. Hey, Mr. Grapefruit, no worries. No worries, Mr. Grapefruit. Thank you for the raid yesterday. You were the one who raided me yesterday, right? I appreciate that. And I'm glad to have you as part of the community. I'm glad to have you on board. Thank you, man. I have to check out your channel. I got to get like a shout out command in chat for when we have people whose channels we want to share, and we want to put the word out there for friends of the channel. Mr. Grapefruit's out there. He raided me yesterday. So I appreciate that. But yeah, guys, Ask a Neuroscientist in half an hour. So get your questions ready. Get your thoughts organized around the science of mental health. University thesis about Elva Galarga University. Oh, you're doing a university thesis about people on Twitch? Anything to help a channel, even a tiny way, that does such good in the world. Thank you, man. I am just grateful that you think I'm doing good in the world. It's really gratifying to hear that, and I really hope that we'll be able to grow this channel and to keep bringing whatever good we're doing to as many people as possible. So I'm excited to see where we can take it, and to see what 2021 holds for us. At this point, we are at, I think we're at something in the region of like, where are we? 430 something followers. What do we have right now? We have 437 followers. So 437 followers right now. My original goal, like way back, was to potentially get to 1,000 by the end of the year. But 1,000 is way off. But 500, that might happen. We might get to 500 followers by the end of 2020. And if we do, that'll be pretty cool. Maybe I should set a goal for that. Maybe I should put a followers goal that we try to get to 500 by the end of the year. But then the problem is, following is such an easy thing. Bye, Dolores. Okay, I'm deep in ages. I'm not sure what's going on with your chat right there. I don't know what you mean. WSOP could help that. That's true. Christmas giveaway or something that gives a bump at the end too. Speaking of giveaways, let's do this. Let's type !giveaway in the chat and remind you guys that right at that link right there, you can fill out a Google form to nominate somebody that you know for the PS4 with Spider-Man that we're giving away. So we do have a giveaway, and I'm excited for that because my goal that I'm hoping for is to give my PS4 with a copy of Spider-Man to a kid that really loves Spider-Man. So, you know, a kid that doesn't have a games console, that really loves Spider-Man, that, you know, that would really appreciate having this console. That would be my hope. And I'm hoping to be able to find the sort of appropriate person, the appropriate kid to give this to. I keep meaning to promote this more. I keep meaning to like be out there on Twitter more and on Twitch and just to make sure this giveaway gets out there among people. So do share it with your friends. Do share it with anybody that you think might benefit. There's a sad little 35-year-old boy called Smithy. I tell you what, Smithy, if we get absolutely no nominations, then you can have it. How about that, right? Because you know, maybe being a boy is more of a state of mind as opposed to an age. Maybe that's how it is. Cricket. Oh my god. It's not strictly for US kids. Anywhere. I will send this PS4 anywhere in the world. I will send it absolutely anywhere. So you can nominate anyone you like. You can nominate Smithy if you want, but he might not be the best candidate. He might be a little old. I sort of I'm sort of picturing. It's funny. I don't even know what I'm picturing in terms of the sad little 35-year-old boy image, but it's pretty hilarious. So thank you for that one, Smithy. And Cricket's comment is amazing as well. I'm loving this. But yeah, guys, we got the giveaway going on. We got the goals. We got all sorts of stuff, and we got the World Series of Poker main event this Sunday. $10,000 buy-in poker tournament on WSOP.com. So the highlight of the year for me as a poker player. I definitely suggest nominating someone more needy. What time does the main event start? You know, I haven't actually looked yet. I think it starts at 11 or noon, because it's probably going to be a pretty long first day. Let me see if I can figure it out. I'm going to open up WSOP.com right here. Oh wait, I have Zoom open. It's not going to allow me to open up WSOP.com, I don't think. But yeah, it's going to be really exciting. I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward to having the opportunity to stream some more poker, and also just to really hopefully grow the stream a little bit. Yeah, poker is my profession. I am a professional poker player. And oh, it starts at 12. It starts at 12 noon on Sunday. So yeah, poker is my profession. I am a professional poker player and coach. I live in Las Vegas, Nevada, which is obviously the one of the best places on the planet to live if you are a poker player. And yeah, I am playing in the main event. I am streaming the main event. That's kind of what I meant. That's kind of what I mean. So I'm looking forward to that. And Heiser, the new schedule is basically interviews are going to wrap, or interviews and you know, segments are going to wrap at about 1 p.m. Pacific. We may sometimes do a chapter of Lost Connections after that. You know, just until we finish off the book. But generally, we're going to be back at about 3 p.m. Pacific. So for you, that would be 6. And then we'll stream for a couple hours. So that'll be the goal. Wow, an awesome story. Thank you. Where are you from around the UK? Yeah, I'm originally from Dorset. So like the Southwest generally, and then I lived in Southampton for about 10 years before I moved to the States. So I moved to the States in 2017, and I've been here ever since. I actually haven't been back to the UK since I moved here. I probably will at some point, but I just got all my stuff from my storage unit that was in the UK. I used to have a storage unit there that I had a bunch of stuff in there. InfoVertex123, thank you for the follow, appreciate it. Hey mate, I am grateful to have you with us. Welcome to the community. I hope you like the Tom Hanks gif. I'm glad I found that gif. That's a really good gif. I'm doing pretty well. Doing pretty well today. Enjoying the fact that I have a little more fresh air in my stream room today. My granddad lives in Dorset, love around the Shaftesbury area. I know Shaftesbury very well. I went to school in Shaftesbury. So yeah, that's funny. I have a question, but don't want to be rude. Okay, well, if your question is not rude, then go ahead and ask. I'm happy to answer. What question do you have, InfoVertex? Okay. You are getting the ban hammer because you are quite clearly being pretty anti-Semitic there. So that is fucked up. Yeah. Ban hammer has come out. In fact, I didn't notice earlier. I didn't notice because I was reading the chat from YouTube, but FTB banned D-Benages earlier on. So two usages of the ban hammer already today. I don't know. We need a thing for me to hit because I can't hit my desk. I can't like hit my desk with this because it's loud, right? So like I don't know what I can hit, but like 2 usages of the ban hammer. So there we go. And there we are. We have 2 trolls that have been banned. Troll number 1. Is it troll number 1 or troll number 2? I don't know what D-Benage is. Oh, I do need the punching bag. That's true. I should have some kind of methodology for that. Why do people do this? Yeah, I don't know why people do it either. Last time I was watching a gameplay and someone just came and spoiled the whole game. Ugh, yeah, that's terrible. I think that my sort of instinct as to why people do it is because they want the attention. And in a lot of cases, I think when people do stuff like that for attention, it's because for whatever reason, they don't feel like they get a lot of attention in their own life. You know, I think they feel like they aren't significant. They aren't, you know, they don't have things in their life that make them feel like they are taken seriously or that people are paying attention to them. So I think that trolling kind of comes from that place. They're sociopaths leading terrible, angry lives. A lot of them are really, really angry. Yeah, that's true. They desperately need help, but they're too terrified to ask. Yeah, I think that's true. Agreed. Why on a stream and tries to help people too? Yeah, I mean, like, my theory, or Cricket's theory, really. Cricket and I were talking about this. Cricket's theory is that it's one person who keeps creating a bunch of different accounts, and is trying to like derail my stream with trolling because they always come in. They always come in during this segment, right? The trolls don't come in when I'm gaming, really. They don't do that later in the day. And they also don't come in when I'm doing interviews and things like that. So I'm relatively sure that it's one person who's done this. Oh, see whisper. Okay, I will see my whispers. Where are we? 3 whispers, okay. Ah. Oh, geez. Okay. I see. All right. Well, thank you, FTB, for the translations. I'm grateful for you banning that person. InfoVertex is too smart of a name. It's also not personalized in any way. That's true. That's true. When people call people names like that, it really gets me raging. Yeah, I feel like we have there's a real thing going on in our society where there's a lot of like people out there with a desire to hurt, you know, desire to hurt other people, and that is something we're going to need to address, because it's so it makes everything so toxic, you know. It makes everything into the kind of situation where one person's trying to hurt somebody, so somebody else feels like they've been hurt because someone is trying to hurt them, and then because they feel hurt, they respond defensively to certain stuff, or they take it out on certain people in different ways, and then we just get this back and forth that's really, really toxic. Good day, Kat. Welcome, welcome. Good to have you with us once again. When it happens, I turn to Justice Warrior mode. Yeah, that's funny. There's a lot of immaturity, and I think it's funny. Yeah, there's a lot of that. We should celebrate. We defeated the troll and defended the stream. We did. We got out the banhammer. The banhammer is gone. Well, the banhammer is out. Sorry. The troll is gone, is what I mean. You guys should give me some suggestions of how I should paint this banhammer, because I want this to be a banhammer that looks interesting and is fun, and you know, every time it comes out, people can like be excited or whatever. So you guys can let me know if you have any designs for a paint scheme. How about that? And yeah, that's funny. The Kath Z and Zcat are both in chat. Red handle, gold head. That's cool. I like that. Yep, the banhammer. Maybe I should paint it like the banhammer emote. I was just thinking of cool paint for that. It does have to be colorful. Definitely has to be colorful. Back to... I like the Eminem line, Kath. Best thing to do is ban them without comment. Doesn't derail the stream and doesn't give them any attention. Yeah. I don't know, though. I always... Because it's like... Okay, so what basically... at the point where the chat is moving... Oh, the Thor hammer. That would be good. That would be really good. At the point where the chat is moving fast enough to where the mods will just like jump in, ban them, and I don't even have to address it, then that'll be a little bit easier. But as it is, it's like, it's a weird elephant in the room, you know, because most of what I'm doing is reacting to chat. And then when I see something that a lot of it is like not quite a troll, but or it kind of feels like it might be a troll, so I'll address it. And then by the time they like we figure out that they're a troll, I've already addressed them, you know. So it's like, I wonder if maybe I have to not address anything that I feel like it might be a troll. But then it's hard to know just when I read it, you know. It's tough. Harley Quinn hammer. That would be a good suggestion. Harley Quinn, Thor. All good suggestions. I might leave it to Cricket to decide, because she's the one who has the visual. She's the artist in the family, you know. I'm the guy who streams and plays video games and plays poker sometimes. Spidey sense is tingling. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good way to describe it, I suppose. But yeah, we've got 15 minutes to go until Ask a Neuroscientist. I'm excited for Dr. Rob to come in and talk with you guys. I'm excited for the questions that you might have. So please do get thinking about that. We're going to take a short break before we come back. I'm just going to use the restroom and make sure my water is all topped up. But I think we'll be good to go on time. And then, what do you think, guys? Do you want to do a chapter of Lost Connections after Ask a Neuroscientist? Can you give an example of a question we can ask? Okay, well, so there you go, right? So right away, that's a question you can ask. if you don't know what a neuroscientist is, what is a neuroscientist? You know, we're gonna start by having Dr. Rob introduce himself and talk about you know, his background, you know, what he's been involved with, because we have ever since he came to the channel as our first ever interview, and you know, we've got a bunch of new people since then. Oh, J.R.R. Beasley, thank you for being here. I appreciate you. Welcome. I'm sad because I think my girlfriend has just left me because I'm too clingy and insecure. Well, I'm sorry to hear that your girlfriend has left you. That's always rough to deal with. So I think we all feel you in that sense. Oh wait, she's back. It's okay. She was just making a cup of tea. I get the joke. I get the joke. That's funny. I don't know if it's... I don't know. That was actually a little funny. I don't think this might not be a troll. I don't know. Let's wait and see, guys. Let's wait and see. But I mean, I actually, to be honest, it's a close one, because like, it's not intended as trolling. Zcat is not a sir. Zcat is a ma'am. Not intended as trolling. It's just like a fat penguin, just an icebreaker. That's funny. Also funny. I got J.R.R. Beasley, I'm gonna go out there and suggest you're from my part of the world in the UK, because that feels like the kind of humor that is very UK in origin. It feels like very British humor. The girlfriend joke and the fat penguin thing. But anyway, guys, you are in the UK. Boom! I nailed it. See, I can tell British humor when I see it. Absolutely nailed it. I'm pleased with myself on that one. See, this is the funny thing, right? People in chat were like, I don't know, it might be trolling, and I'm just like, I had my British humor alarm bell ringing in my head of like, that sounds like just the kind of joke that a British guy might make. Mentions tea, exactly. Also, yes, that was another thing that set the alarm bell off, right? The cup of tea thing. Even Cricket had the alarm bell, the British humor alarm bell going off. She spent enough time with me that she understands it now, right? But welcome, J.R.R. Beasley. I appreciate you for being here. You came in right after we had a troll a little bit ago. So we got the ban hammer out for the troll before you came in, and so maybe you came in at an inopportune time. But in any event, we are. I think we're good. But I hope everybody out there is doing well today. I know we've talked a little bit about how I'm doing. I'm doing pretty well. I'm enjoying having a little bit of chat is on edge. Yeah, chat is a little bit chat is a little bit like, what's going on right now? Brooklyn beatdown. Brooklyn beatdown is anytime FTB bans somebody, that's a Brooklyn beatdown. Yeah, welcome JRR. We're happy to have you here. And we're gonna be taking a quick break in a few minutes just to get set up for Ask a Neuroscientist. And as I mentioned, we may do another chapter of Lost Connections afterwards, but we'll see how it goes. My theory is that UK peeps are so uncomfortable talking, showing their emotions, that they learn to compensate with humor. You have nailed it, my friend. You have nailed exactly why British people are the way they are. That is exactly right. Can I ask, do you feel like lockdown has improved or hindered your mental health? Interesting question. I think it's actually improved it. but not necessarily because lockdown itself improved it. It's because lockdown has put me in a position where I did a lot of thinking about what I wanted to be doing with my time, and lockdown led me to arrive at streaming being a thing that I wanted to do, you know. So I really I'm very grateful that, you know, COVID caused me to sort of start experimenting with some of these new things. I don't think I've answered that even once, so it's a good question. I don't think I've answered it a million times by any means. I feel personally attacked by Zcat's astute observations. Spent the last year in UK Twitch channels. I've been studying English. Yeah, that's where Cat picked up the word mate, I would assume. Probably from Spraggy's stream, somewhere like that. But yeah, Cat is our resident French Canadian. I keep wanting to speak some French on stream, but I'm too embarrassed. I like your Han Solo. It is a poster, yeah. A fridge that was 2D printed like that. Awesome. Yeah, or 3D printed, I guess. You got banned by Straggy's girlfriend on Twitter? Do you mean blocked? Marley blocked you? Why did Marley block you? Yeah, Marley is a little, I don't know. I like Spraggy a lot, but like, Marley is sort of 50-50. Please speak French when you're comfortable doing it. Why? Why would Marley block you? That's weird. She made another cringe tweet defending GG Poker recent hire. Oh, okay, yeah. I mean, she likes to be controversial. I guess that's it. Please speak French when I'm comfortable doing it. Okay. Je vais parler un peu français, mais c'est difficile parce que ça fait longtemps que je n'ai pas pratiqué. Donc, mon français, c'est très mauvais en ce moment. Et en plus, parler avec une Canadienne, j'ai l'impression qu'elle ne va pas me comprendre avec mon accent peut-être du nord de la France où j'avais passé un an. Thank you, Kat. But I do have a degree in French, so I should be able to speak fairly well. But it's been a long time. It's been a long time. That was the most French I've spoken in. I think the last time I spoke French was when I talked to an Uber driver here in Vegas in French, maybe a year ago or a little more. No, definitely more than that. Probably like 2 years ago. That's the most French I've spoken in like 2 years, probably. Thank you, Kath. You even roll the R's and everything. Like I say, I studied French from the age of 6 till 22, and I lived in France for a year, so I should speak good French. But it's the lack of practice that, you know, I haven't spoken it consistently in 10 years, but I did get to the point of relative fluency at a certain stage. Baguette. Man, don't remind me. I eat gluten-free now. I wouldn't be able to handle going to France and just turning down all the baguettes. There's so much gluten in the French diet. Ferme la bouche. It's not spelt bush, but yeah, that, you know, that's technically French. He doesn't sweet talk you in French all the time. She's constantly asking me to do so, believe it or not. But I get very self-conscious bringing it out because I never know what to say. So it is how it is, I suppose. All right. Well, on that note from Cricket, I am gonna go take a quick break, and we'll be back in a few minutes, and we'll get started with Ask a Neuroscientist. I'll see you in a minute, guys. Aha.
Is this thing on?
I think this thing is on. Can you hear me okay?
Stay away from the brown acid.
Are you hearing me all right?
Yep, just fine.
Okay. Excellent. All right. Well, welcome, guys, to episode number 1 of Ask a Neuroscientist.
End of the stream. Oh, somebody can't hear me. Cricket ping ball. La 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 la. Now I can't hear either of them, says Crow Malroth. La 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 la. Can't hear Matt.
It's coming. It's coming. All right. I think you can hear me now. I think people can hear me now.
Can you hear me now? Good.
I hear la la la. Okay. Well, that's good.
Doctor
Now
is
I'm
good.
back. All right. Okay, we got it
Um,
sorted. All right, guys. So sorry about that. We have the usual technical hitches. I feel like every time I start something new on this stream, it's constant technical hitches. But I'm happy to have you back with us, Rob. How's it going?
Going very well, thank you. I am. I'll start with mental health positive self-disclosure. I'm sitting in front of a pile of junk in my
Okay.
room because we've had a house full of plumbers,
Ah.
and my office becomes the de facto storage
Ah.
anytime we need to have workers in, and they've had to cut into the drywall to replace a bunch of pipes. And for a while now, the water tastes like plastic because it's all new PVC, and we're waiting for the drywallers to come back and finish putting all the drywall plugs back in, mudding and painting. But
Wow.
we're through the hard part. We finally had our last day of water off today. We're in a building, and I don't know much about plumbing, but we're in a column of apartments
Yeah.
that are all off a common feed. And so today, finally, the bottom floor in our column had its plumbing done. So
Ah.
all our water's back.
Oh,
No
wow.
more,
Nice.
no more daily interruptions.
Well, that's
Now
good.
yeah, although a couple of weeks ago the plumbers did have COVID, so the whole project ground to a halt
Oh,
for
wow.
about 2 weeks while they very responsibly went into isolation.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I'm glad to hear that you have access to water again. That is probably a pretty key component for mental health. But
Or just
as
life,
a yes, and life. Yes, absolutely.
which is
As a
itself an important precursor to,
yes.
well, any kind of health.
Yes, exactly. And as a starting point for those in the chat who may not have been here when you were last on the show, because
Yeah.
it was a while ago. It was like late September, I think. Channel's grown a fair bit since then, which is good.
Oh, yeah, I see a very active chat here.
Yeah, and I'm happy to see it. But let's talk a little bit about your background first of all. So you
Sure.
are working out of Vancouver, British Columbia. Am I correct in saying that still?
Yes.
Okay,
No
absolutely.
changes there. Yeah.
So for the sake of anybody who in chat is not necessarily particularly clear on what a neuroscientist is or does and what you specifically do within that field, do you want to give a bit of
Sure.
a brief intro for everybody?
Right. So neuroscience is a very, very broad field, and I'm only in
Mm-hmm.
a very tiny, narrow segment of it. So,
Mm-hmm.
neuroscience, broadly construed, is the effort to understand, not only sort of at a macro level how the brain works, but at a micro level, how does a neuron work? How do
Mm-hmm.
subcomponents of neurons work? And that includes the genetics of neurons, the structures within neurons, the physiology of neurons, um, how do they process signals, receiving signals. So, and then this breaks down into kind of broader areas like, all right, well, how do creatures sense the environment, and how do they
Mm-hmm.
process that information, leading to actions that promote any of what are called the four zoological imperatives, which are feeding, fleeing, fighting, and copulation. You can
Right. Yes.
so if you think about an animal as something with broadly those four tasks,
Mm-hmm.
um, nervous systems are evolved to optimize those tasks.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, well, how does that happen? How do we sense that world out there? How do we process it? How do we act in the world to achieve our goals of survival and reproduction? And then you can kind of specialize out from there, like the branches of an evolutionary tree. And my particular perch on that tree, I'm interested in functional brain imaging of psychiatric disorders. So I use technology like brain PET scans, which is a way of looking at brain metabolic activity kind of within the whole human brain to look at glucose utilization. We use a kind of a radioactive sugar that emits radioactive particles called positrons. Positrons themselves are antimatter. We can't detect antimatter, but antimatter, the positron it's the same mass as an electron, but with a positive charge. So it's an
Mm-hmm.
anti-electron, collides with an electron. Those emit gamma particles called annihilation photons, which we can detect. And then that can give us a map of metabolic activity throughout the brain.
Right.
And I'm also interested in brain perfusion studies. So looking at how blood flows through the brain, because the brain doesn't store energy. It can't. It's completely dependent on demand. and areas of the brain using lots of glucose. If you remember from high school biology, glucose breaks down into carbon dioxide and water. So when neurons are metabolizing glucose, they make carbon dioxide, and that causes blood vessels to dilate, which causes more blood flow to come. So perfusion ends up being an indirect marker of metabolism, because where the blood is flowing, we assume that under normal physiological conditions, that's a marker of high metabolism. It doesn't correlate, it doesn't map out 1-to-1, but it's pretty close. And therefore, we can use perfusion studies to also try and understand what the brain is doing metabolically, either at a whole brain level or in particular circuits of interest.
Sure. Okay. And with regard to the aspect of psychiatric disorders, you're doing that kind of study on specifically when it relates to people who suffer from different kinds of mental health ailments. Is that right?
Right. Or individuals who've had neurological difficulties that lead to psychiatric symptoms. So an interest of mine is traumatic brain injury and the impact on brain perfusion and brain metabolism in individuals with traumatic brain injuries who then go on to develop neurological or psychiatric syndromes. I'm also interested in whether we can use biological markers of brain activity to differentiate mood disorders. So for instance, an individual with major depressive disorder will have episodes of depression. An individual with bipolar disorder will have episodes of depression and then episodes of mania or hypomania. And the depression of major depressive disorder looks exactly like the depression of bipolar disorder. So if you develop depression and you walk into your GP's office and complaining of depression, there's about a 1 in 6 chance that that's actually the start of a bipolar disorder.
Right.
And the treatments for major depressive disorder are very different from the treatments for bipolar disorder. In fact, a lot of the treatments for major depressive disorder, such as SSRI antidepressants, can be very destabilizing in bipolar disorder. So it'd be really very interesting to see if there are significant differences in brain metabolism between individuals who are having bipolar depression versus individuals who are having what we call unipolar depression. Because individuals who are showing signs of bipolar depression could then be directed towards mood stabilizers and directed away from antidepressants, which might make their lives a lot worse.
Right.
And it's not a trivial problem, because a lot of the individuals who go to their GP and have a bipolar depression and end up on antidepressants, it makes their depression worse, or in a lot of ways that can be quite spectacular. And so from that person's point of view and the GP's point of view, they don't go, aha, this is a bipolar depression. They go, this depression didn't respond to the SSRI. Let's try another one. Let's try another one. Let's try another one. 10 years later, you have an individual who has lost a lot of time and a lot of quality of life. So, and when you think about the burden of that happening 1 time in 6, this is 16% of depressed individuals walking into their family doctor's offices are getting the wrong diagnosis and the wrong treatment, and that treatment is actually having a significant negative impact on their quality of life. It's not a small problem. Unfortunately, so far our explorations aren't really turning up much. We have an investigative database of about 12,000 individuals with brain scans with depression in unipolar depression and in bipolar depression, and we haven't really been able to find any significant biomarkers. The first the first rule of Science Club is your hypothesis is wrong and your data won't support it. A bit different from the first rule of Fight Club, but we don't talk about that. So there's kind of a meta rule of Science Club where we don't talk about the first rule of Science Club. And that's kind of where we're at.
Okay, cool. We actually have the first question that came in from Crow Malroth in chat. I have BPD and audio hallucinations with schizophrenia traits and anxiety.
Okay. Yeah.
What is the best outcome I can hope for, and the worst or most likely, and what can help manage the damage with the symptoms? I guess you have the chat up, so you can see that, right? You're
I
okay with
can,
that?
yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Wow. To add to my question, how many symptoms do BPD and schizophrenia share, and how can you tell BPD symptoms versus comorbid schizophrenia? All right. Well, a lot to unpack there. So the second question is probably easier to tackle than the first. The criteria sets for bipolar disorder are completely different from the criteria sets for most psychotic disorders. So
I think, by the way, sorry, I think he means borderline personality disorder and not bipolar.
oh, okay, okay,
Because
okay.
he was talking about borderline earlier.
I got you.
I think that's what he means. If you could clarify, Crow, that would be good. But I think he means borderline.
Ah, yeah, yeah, yeah. So, okay, so if this is borderline personality, under states of extreme stress, individuals with borderline personality can have what are called micropsychotic episodes. So they'll transiently or briefly experience auditory hallucinations, or brief states of paranoia, but those tend to only last for hours, or maybe a few days, and then they tend to settle spontaneously as the stress kind of resolves. But certainly an individual who has a primary psychotic disorder, meaning someone who's going to have problems with hallucinations, delusions, which are kind of fixed false ideas, dysregulated thinking, so thought disorders, and then functional decline, kind of the classical positive symptoms of something like schizophrenia, together with kind of the negative symptoms of schizophrenia, which is kind of that kind of loss of emotional life, loss of motivation, poverty of thought, a kind of a hollowing out of just the good things in life and personality. You can have that and borderline personality. There's no reason why those can't be comorbid, and that certainly does occur. And one of the things that can make it difficult is these micropsychotic episodes. Because if somebody is under, say, ongoing sustained stress in their life, maybe they're in a really adverse situation that there's no easy escape from, like an abusive relationship. If you're someone who tends to have a lot of emotional reactivity under ordinary circumstances, under very adverse circumstances, that reactivity is just always pegged, maxed out. And so you might end up in a situation where that micropsychotic episode, it just goes on and on and on and on and on and on and on. And those can be extremely difficult to tease apart, because if somebody ends up in a psychotic episode and they end up on a psychiatric unit, well, we're just going to treat somebody like that with antipsychotics, and they're going to settle, and everyone's going to go, hooray, we got the psychosis under control with the antipsychotics and with the stabilization of a psychiatric unit. And it can be like genuinely difficult to tease those apart.
Right.
So some further amplifying detail. I've heard my name being called, or conversations with no one else around, and thoughts that are outside my nature, but mostly in my voice all my life. So it's actually physiologically normal to, at times in your life, hear your own name being called without there being anyone calling it. This is something I've experienced. This is something the vast majority of people have experienced at some time. You hear Matt, and you, and there's just nobody around. Like, what the hell was that?
Yeah.
It just happens. We don't know why, but it's it is completely common throughout the world. Hearing kind of faint conversation, that might be a bit different. The good clues in that case are, insight is preserved. Like, hey, that's going on. There's nobody doing that. I'm not going to necessarily pay attention to that, or I'm not going to let that kind of control my life anyways. If you kind of start to lose insight into that, and you start to engage in that loss of insight is maybe more symptomatic of a primary psychotic disorder than, say, of a personality disorder.
I see. Interesting. More questions coming in. More questions coming in from Kath.
Imagine you're dealing with psychosis, so you get antipsychotics. Then you don't have enough dopamine, so you develop ADHD symptoms. Or is that complete nonsense? Well, There's this kind of gets us into kind of the world of dopamine and dopamine receptors. And when we give somebody antipsychotics, those tend to target dopamine receptors in the frontal lobe. They target them in lots of different places in your brain, but we're trying to therapeutically target the ones in the frontal lobe, and to sort of block dopamine. And when we give somebody medications for ADHD, we're trying to increase dopamine activity in the frontal lobe. So what's interesting is, dopamine was first discovered in the central nervous system in the 1960s. And this led actually to a Nobel Prize for Arvid Carlsson, who was the discoverer, that, wow, there's dopamine in the central nervous system. Now it is just absolutely taken for granted. Like it's as basic as, you turn on the light switch and the lights come on. Well, this wasn't always the case. And it was actually like a really big deal when biogenic amines were discovered in the central nervous system. This was like a major triumph of science, to actually separate out these tiny molecules from essentially like blended brain mush, which was how you would have to kind of prepare your brain for chemical analysis. And this led to one of the earliest hypotheses of schizophrenia, the dopamine hypothesis, which basically says, okay, schizophrenia is an excess of dopamine. And therefore, what we have to do is block dopamine, because the first medications that treated psychotic symptoms, before it was even known how they did that, we knew that a medication called chlorpromazine, which was actually studied initially by a pair of surgeons in France who were interested in medications to assist with anesthesia. They wanted medications that could reduce the need for surgical anesthetics. And in the 1940s, who did you turn to? Well, you turn to your chronic psychiatric populations. I mean, medicine has a lot to answer for ethically in terms of how medical research was conducted. And so Delay and Denneker in France started experimenting with new compounds in psychiatric patients. And one of those was chlorpromazine, who they gave to an individual who had bipolar disorder with psychotic features, or what we would now diagnose retrospectively. And 6 weeks later, that person was like completely better.
Yeah.
No one had ever seen anything like this before. And to the point where that person was able to be discharged from hospital. Because it used to be that having a major bipolar disorder, a major mood disorder, or a major psychotic disorder was essentially, there's no effective treatment. And so these folks ended up in asylum care for the duration of their lives. And so then the race was on. Like, what did that do? How did that happen? And it was finally discovered that, okay, what does this stuff do? Well, it's an antihistamine. Oh, it seems to block dopamine in dishes. Well, I wonder if there's dopamine in the brain. Oh my God, there's dopamine in the brain. And that was the dopamine hypothesis. It was born at that time. And it's a very simplistic hypothesis of schizophrenia. It's much simpler than a dopamine balance, right? Because not everybody who, say, takes cocaine, which floods you with dopamine, gets psychotic, but a certain percentage of people do. And so these days, we actually are able to successfully treat individuals. It's not something that you do lightly. It involves a lot of close clinical management. But if you get somebody's psychotic symptoms under control and you've got them stable, a lot of psychiatrists will carefully introduce dopamine stimulants in the hope of offsetting attention deficit type symptoms. And this is often done quite successfully. So how does that work? We got one medication blocking dopamine and another one that's stimulating dopamine. Stay tuned. I don't know if anyone has a good answer to that, but it's one of these situations where the clinical data, the clinical reality are way ahead of the theory, as is often the case. And it'll just take years and years of careful research and theorizing to figure out what the heck is actually going on.
Wow.
That explains the clinical facts. But that's just how science works.
Yeah, it's funny as a non-scientist to hear how common it is to simply observe something that works, but you don't know why, right? Like that
Yeah.
feels like it happens quite often almost.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's probably similar in the, like say Betelgeuse. Look at everyone heard about Betelgeuse, the star in
Mm-hmm.
Orion's shoulder that a couple months ago was shrinking and shrinking and
Mm-hmm.
shrinking and then just came back to normal size. And all the theorists were like, we have no theory that explains this. When this happens, usually this means the star is going to go supernova. Well, it
Mm-hmm.
didn't. It just kind of went back to normal size. So here's this observed fact out in the
Mm-hmm.
universe that anybody with a decent telescope could have observed for themselves. And oh well, now the theorists are all back to their whiteboards.
Interesting. So let's tackle Crow's next question. Is there
Sure.
medication to reduce cortisol? I have an extremely difficult, near impossible time relaxing without alcohol or weed. Interesting.
Yeah. So sure, there are medications that can block cortisol, but those typically wouldn't be medications that would be used, say, for anxiety, right? So the primary treatments for anxiety would be things like well, the most common approach to anxiety is cognitive behavioral therapy, and if you have access to that, and if you
Mm-hmm.
don't, or if your anxiety is of a certain severity or limited responsiveness, then we add things like SSRI medications, and if we're getting down, you know, by the time someone's looking at cortisol antagonists, you'd better be in an anxiety clinic at that
Mm-hmm.
point because we're getting into fairly exotic, way off algorithm type treatments by that
Mm-hmm.
stage. But
I see.
yes, there are cortisol blockers. They're not first line. They're not
Mm-hmm.
even second line. They're not even third line. They're kind of they're on the track, but several stations down.
Right. I see. And then Smithy's question is a really interesting one. Does neuroscience have a goal in its research of mental health? Do you think it will ever be able to fully understand or quote unquote cure it, or is that not even a consideration in the community?
Yeah, well, I don't. Science broadly construed is a protean beast. So there can be science that has goals, and in particular, the clinical sciences. The goal there is to understand and eradicate disease.
Mm-hmm.
The basic sciences may or may not have different goals other than just increasing knowledge,
Right.
increasing understanding. But the clinical sciences, by and large, have the goal of eradicating disease. Now, does that mean that we're ever going to be able to achieve that goal? Well, no, because other results of science tell us that some of the things that we need to do to eradicate disease are things that may not be humanly achievable. So, for instance, we know that one of the best things that we could do to greatly alleviate psychiatric suffering would be to make sure that everybody has access to housing and a basic level of income.
Mm-hmm.
So suddenly, as soon as you say that, now we've entered into a political realm
Yeah.
of political discussion and all sorts of inveighing forces coming from other directions. And so I can say, yeah, there's study after study after study of kind of experimental conditions where we give people housing and we give them an income and we give them a chance to escape poverty, and about 80% of them do, and they're able to achieve stable self-sufficiency. Um, but how do we change the political sphere to make
Mm-hmm.
that an acceptable option? Well, that I'm going to have to turn over to the political scientists because that's
Right.
that's outside of my arena.
Yeah. I think we all kind of recognize this interaction between the domain of mental health, the domain of well-being, and these other domains that relate to a very large perspective on society. And something that you brought to us in the first interview that we did that I've continually referenced in other interviews, and it's come up in the book that we're reading right now. This book right here, Lost Connections by Johan Hari, um, is this idea of a biological, psychological, and social model of looking at mental health.
Right.
And from what you said before, it sounds like that has become more of a part of the landscape now for looking at where the genesis of mental health conditions are. Do you think that we'll see more of a growth in that as things go forward, and we'll really start to see more of a social push to to acknowledge on a political level the mental health consequences of the way the world is constructed these days?
Well, it's interesting because it's kind of gone backwards, right? So the
Mm-hmm.
biopsychosocial model was first promulgated in the mid 1970s, and it was based on a lot of observations that were coming to the fore through the 40s, 50s, and 60s, based on your outcomes in terms of your adult success, stability of relationships, educational and career success,
Mm-hmm.
had a lot to do with early childhood experiences.
Right.
And early childhood experiences not only have to do with your nuclear family, but with that family's socioeconomic status, access to wealth, and so forth. So a lot of that information is really not new. And in the 1960s, social psychiatry was extremely popular. It was a time of broad social movements, social experimentation, and psychiatry is not immune to the cultural forces of the day.
Mm-hmm.
But then, as that kind of recedes in the 1970s, the rise of a new movement starts almost at the same time because of some of the same results, which is biological psychiatry, because of the success of things like chlorpromazine in treating mood disorders and psychotic disorders, because of the success of a medication called meprodoline, which was the very first antidepressant, which had a similar evolutionary arc. It came out of some of the early medications used to treat tuberculosis. There was this observation that once we got individuals into sanatoriums, which were the hospitals to kind of isolate and treat tuberculosis, get them on anti-tuberculars, a lot of them were just way happier than they should have been. So some folks thought, well, that's really interesting. Why don't we try this stuff on some of our depressed patients? And so you take tuberculosis medications, give them to individuals who have depression, and wow, they're doing better. Why is that? Nobody knows. But those medications are really toxic for your liver. So let's tweak, and then develop a safer compound. And the first antidepressants are born. So there's all these competing factions within psychiatry itself and competing agendas, because human beings are so vast and complicated as individuals and in group interactions that there's not one approach that's going to solve the human condition writ large. And so there was a rise after the kind of the throwing off the psychoanalytic monopoly in the 60s. There was the rise, there was a rise of social psychiatry. Like, well, we need to change the social conditions. We need to worry less about dealing with the individual, because all the psychotherapy in the world isn't going to change the fact that you live in poverty and your boss is abusive and you feel stuck in life. We need to create options for people to kind of allow them to flourish. And the biological psychiatrists come along and say, hey, you can talk till you're blue in the face. I can give this person this pill in 3 weeks. They're feeling a lot better. We need to look at the brain. And so psychiatry is always in this kind of perpetual tension of kind of atomizing and consolidating and atomizing and consolidating. And I think what's interesting now is because there's a lot more just willingness and openness to discuss psychiatric distress in general within the population, there's a subsequent openness to discussing, all right, what are the array of approaches that are going to be successful? And that includes, well, let's take a look at social conditions. And so social psychiatry has kind of done this, and it's back on the upswing.
Right.
Just around the same time that, for probably 10, I want to say, maybe 15 years, biological psychiatry, its bag of tricks temporarily is kind of stalled out, right? We're still making progress in terms of medications that have better side effect profiles, and that's not trivial progress, right? So a lot of our antipsychotics from the 90s would tend to cause, unwanted weight gain, which could be severe and could lead to diabetes, could lead to premature heart attacks. So making progress in terms of side effect profiles is a significant quality of life advance, and other kinds of undesirable side effects. But we haven't really had a drug that we can go, oh wow, this completely treats a brand new condition. Like
Mm-hmm.
we're still basically treating the same cluster of conditions in the same way with the same broad approaches of drugs that we have over the last 20 years. So there's kind of an openness now to sort of looking at the broad interplay of interaction. So in Vancouver, there's an ongoing study of individuals who are homeless in the downtown east side of Vancouver, and looking at a broad mix of, all right, medication, access to community supports, um, dignity in housing, stability of income, um, curtailing, um, injecting sources of social stimulation, so there's just less pull towards drugs as escapism, and it's all happening all at once.
Mm-hmm.
And so watch this space is sort of the short answer.
Okay, interesting. Very interesting. And we have more questions coming in, so let's tackle them. Crow Malroth,
Nightbot,
once
everyone
again.
remember to stretch your body every now and
Yes,
then.
that's
Thank you,
that's
Nightbot.
my reminder. Nightbot is in my chat out there reminding everybody to stretch and drink water and things like that. Because we got a lot of people, myself included, who spend a lot of time sitting at desks and forget to drink water and forget to stretch and things like
Sure,
that.
I don't
So
know what you're talking about.
yeah, right. So Crow says, with my situation, my mind never shuts off. I'm always thinking. Most of the time, it's like a million thoughts a second, and most of the time, it's like a spider web. Okay, so that to me at least that sounds like something in the anxiety domain. Um, and the question that follows up from that is, how do you deal with something like BPD with magical thinking that has experiences that correlate with your beliefs? Wow,
Right.
interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, a large part of what, if you just look at the personality disorders broadly, what, there are criteria that define personality disorders, and it's difficulty with, or some kind of limitation in how we regulate emotions. It's difficulty with how we regulate our impulses. It's difficulty in terms of how we kind of form our thoughts, our mental worlds, and then difficulties with functioning with other people. So those are kind of the four peak or high level view, and there can be various sorts of over control or under control in all those domains, and they can kind of mix and match, and leading to kind of core features within each personality disorder. But if you wanted to kind of step back and look at it fundamentally, a personality disorder can be seen as an inability to adapt reality, and the ongoing frustrating effort to try to make reality adapt to
Oh,
our perception
interesting.
of the world.
Yeah.
That's kind of an oversimplistic view. One great example would be the current occupant of the presidency of the United States. Um,
Yes,
this
that's
isn't somebody who's terribly interested
pretty
to adapting to the world as it is, right?
pretty topical. Yeah, I mean that's I feel like that's pretty obvious, but yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Right. So, I haven't done a clinical diagnostic interview with the man. I don't know if he has a personality disorder or not. I know which side I'd bet on. But there's an example of an individual who is forever trying to bend reality to his will,
Mm-hmm.
instead of having the ability to flex and adapt with the warp and woof of the mean, cruel world.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and magical thinking is part and parcel of what it is to have a personality disorder. So somebody, say, with obsessive compulsive personality disorder, the kind of the magical thought, or the theme, the deep theme would be, if I can just control enough things adequately, my life will go well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Somebody with, say, maybe borderline personality disorder, one of their one of the sort of the ideas in there is, if I can just show this person um, how dependent I am on their love,
Mm-hmm.
they will see and they will love me forever,
Oh, I
and
see.
I will be happy,
Mm-hmm.
right? And everyone, right? Say somebody with narcissistic personality, it would be, um, if I could just uh, show you how important and special I am, then you would finally acknowledge me and how important I am. And a lot of
Right.
these, a lot of personality disorders kind of come back to ongoing efforts from childhood to try and fix certain kinds of wounds that
Mm.
never quite got dealt with, often
Mm-hmm.
because of kind of an inadequate experience of just a sort of a secure, normal
Mm-hmm.
childhood with normal levels of parental attunement and misattunement, but repairing. And that kind of goes back to some of the attachment stuff we were talking about the last time. I think we talked a little bit about attachment,
Yeah, we did.
secure and
Yeah, we did.
insecure attachment. So
Mm-hmm.
a lot of personality disorders are born out of insecure attachment, or a severe personality disorder is born out of disorganized attachment. And a lot of personality disorders are around that effort, that security seeking
Mm-hmm.
effort, right? And so
Yeah.
borderline personality, it's the effort to manage relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And they're all really, in some ways, efforts to manage relationships or manage the world or manage the facts of the world to meet internal needs. And a lot of the goals of therapy are to kind of help people to bring them around to the idea that, well, actually, you contain within you all the resources you need to
Mm-hmm.
meet these needs enough to, or to seek them out and get them met well enough, from the people in your life, or from the world, assuming there aren't, social level impediments to
Mm-hmm.
meeting needs, right?
Sure.
If you're not getting paid enough, you aren't going to make rent. And it doesn't matter how healthy and adapted you are. That's just, you aren't
Of
going to be able to
course.
bridge that gap.
Yeah.
So the question about magical thinking, part of the process of therapy is identifying those magical thoughts and replacing them with more rational appraisals of how the world actually is.
Mm-hmm.
What is it that I actually need? Is my behavior going to get me what I need? If not, okay, what do I need to change to kind of get what I need
Mm-hmm.
from the world?
Right. And I think Crow has a follow up to some of
Sure.
that as well, to go back to his original question about most likely and best outcomes and things like that. Any thoughts on that?
Sure. So, borderline personality disorder has been, it's a personality disorder of intense interest psychiatrically, because folks with borderline personality really feel their distress and generate a lot of chaos in their lives and in the lives of those around them. So it does, it kind of generates a lot of attention.
Mm-hmm.
And it's generated a lot of psychiatric interest and therapeutic approaches. And in the last, I want to say, 10 years, one of the most interesting approaches is something called dialectical behavior therapy,
Mm.
which is a form of therapy that involves group formats and individual formats. And it's kind of like, almost like Zen boot camp, because it's based on a lot of paradoxical interventions that help rapidly with individuals with borderline personality who get into dialectical behavior, very rapidly reduce self-harming behaviors, very rapidly reduce suicidal behaviors. And then, over the course of a year, 2 years, in these group settings and individual settings, are able to actually achieve, healthy adaptive outcomes. So, there's definitely hope for borderline personality. A large part of it too is just is brain development, right? So, It's pretty tough to tackle any personality disorder before about age 25, 26, because your brain's just got to finish growing, and there's going to be you're going to get a lot of psychological resources just from that brain maturation process that can then be tapped in a therapeutic setting. So of course the American question is, okay, great, dialectical behavior therapy, that sounds wonderful. How do I plug into that? Unfortunately, that I don't know how. I don't know how to help you with that one. Yeah.
That's the difficult part of the equation, really, and it's something that I've already faced as a streamer. Like people who come and say, "Well, this is an issue that I have. Therapy is part of the solution, but I can't get therapy, right?" And that,
Right.
it speaks to so many of the social issues that we're dealing with. In that,
Right.
if the solution to somebody's problem is therapy and they can't get the solution to the problem, how is that person supposed to fix the problem? And
Yeah. Yeah.
I wish that we had better answers than, we don't know. But it seems like for Crow, that you don't have to you don't have to sweat asking a lot of questions, Crow. That's what this is for. That's why the show's titled Ask a Neuroscientist. It's for people to ask questions. So don't worry about that.
Sort of become Ask a Psychiatrist, but that's fine.
Yeah, that's okay.
It is what
Ask
it
a
is.
psychiatrist, neuroscientist. Maybe I should just call it Ask a Psychiatrist instead. I don't know, but we'll see. The a question that's coming up in for me, actually, that relates to something that you mentioned just a second ago, is you mentioned narcissistic personality disorder.
Yeah.
And I'm really interested by that as a concept, because I think that people are starting to become more familiar with the idea of being able to brand a certain type of person as a quote unquote narcissist, right?
Yeah.
And I think that we've become more conscious as a society of branding people as having a tendency towards being abusive, let's say. So
Sure.
someone calling someone or being able to say this person has an abusive personality, this person is an abuser, this person is a narcissist, things like that.
Right.
I'm wondering, on a psychiatric level, to what extent, when we look at things like narcissistic personality disorder, can you actually put a label in that sense and say, because this person has narcissistic personality disorder, they are more likely to potentially be abusive towards others or be a danger towards others? Is it possible to do that on a psychiatric level?
Yeah, I mean, to some degree. I mean, one of the nice things, the thing about personality disorders is that they tend to be maladaptive approaches to the world, and it's sort of like you have, everybody, part of having a personality is having a tool belt of dealing with different situations, different kinds of stresses, problems, people's. What's it like, in an intimate relationship, friendly relationships, acquaintances? What's it like in the workplace, having a boss, being a boss? And if you're a healthy, well-rounded person, you're adaptive to all that stuff. And having a personality disorder is a very small tool belt. And so part of being able to appropriately diagnose a personality disorder and find the right label for it is that does have prognostic power, in the sense that if the label is applied correctly and in a valid fashion, then we can say, okay, so we know this person has this kind of limitation, and people with this kind of limitation are predisposed to using this tool set to try and solve all their problems. Right. And therefore, we can expect under stress, this person is going to assert themselves in these kinds of ways. So in that sense, that's a very long way of saying that past behavior is the best guide to what we can expect in terms of future behavior.
I see.
From an individual. And so if somebody has a lot of narcissism in their personality structure, then we can expect them, when push comes to shove, that they're going to react in narcissistic ways. So they're going to tend to overprotect their self-esteem, even if that means stepping on your self-esteem.
Right.
Right. And they're going to make sure that they're going to kind of overemphasize the importance of their needs, even if that means excluding your needs, or even what they perceive to be their needs. Because somebody, say, with narcissism, they'll certainly have an idea of what they need and what they think they need. They're going to gravitate toward that, but they don't have any particular insight into whether that's healthy and adaptive or self-destructive and
Mm-hmm.
self-sabotaging. They're still going to drift towards it, but they're just going to be on it like a dog on a bone, right?
Mm-hmm.
And one of the interesting things about personality disorders is these are things that we all have to some degree. So we
Mm-hmm.
all have self-esteem needs. We need to feel as though we're making a difference of some kind in the world. So we need to feel that we are efficacious
Mm-hmm.
as people. So that's one piece. But we also need to feel that our existence just matters intrinsically, whether
Mm-hmm.
we're accomplishing something or not. So there's kind of these two aspects to selfhood and self needs and self-esteem needs that psychiatrists, particularly who work with personality, try and be dialed into.
Mm-hmm.
And so we all have some degree of narcissism. We all want to matter, and we all want to make contributions that are seen as important and that matter. It's when everything else gets pushed out to the side
Yeah.
that it kind of becomes maladaptive, because the only tool in your belt's a hammer, and so you're trying to solve every problem in your life with a hammer, and that leads to a lot of broken stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's probably anybody who's had contact in their life with anybody who is on that side of the spectrum, and who where you've seen evidence of a certain of things that this person has done. So for me, it's like my wife's ex-husband is an absolute narcissist. It is plainly obvious that this guy gets a lot of pleasure out of doing things that hurt other people in many ways. And the struggle that I have in dealing with that is, like, there's a big part of me that acknowledges the scientific reality of how personality, like you say, that these
Mm-hmm.
are factors that are not necessarily the product of an individual making a conscious choice to do a certain thing, but at the same time, this guy continually has shown that he is unwilling to stop hurting people, let's say, or
Sure.
unwilling to consider that hurting people is bad, or unwilling to consider the effects
Sure.
of his own actions. And so a struggle that I have is how to look at how to avoid just being like, it doesn't necessarily matter what psychiatric condition you have, you're just a bad guy, like, because that there's a part of me that wants to just be like, if you're making a choice to hurt other people, that's
Mm-hmm.
that's not
Mm-hmm.
okay,
Right.
and
Right.
so do you ever struggle with this as a scientist,
Yeah.
like feeling like we want to try to find reasons as to why people do these things, but also there's
Right.
a big part of us that wants to say, like, make the choice to stop doing that, please.
Sure. Yeah. Um, so so there's certainly a difference between the scientific quest to understand why a certain phenomenon exists in the world,
Mm-hmm.
but that phenomenon, just kind of broadly, that may have moral or ethical implications, or it may have social implications. And sure, maybe it'd be, just use an extreme example, like, say, a murderous serial killing psychopath. Wow, that's a scientifically interesting phenomenon. But that's also a person that needs to be locked up,
Yeah.
right? and society needs to be protected
Mm-hmm.
from that person, probably forever. So these goals aren't necessarily incommensurate. So
Mm-hmm.
you can say, gosh, that's really scientifically interesting. My ex-wife exhibits significant amounts of sadism.
Mm-hmm.
But we're going to make the self-protective choice of completely splicing that person
Mm-hmm.
out of our lives. And maybe I'll go and, read research articles on sadism,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll read the psychoanalytic literature on sadism to satisfy my intellectual curiosity.
Mm-hmm.
I won't engage directly with the phenomenon.
Right. And I suppose um, there's a division between the moral implications of someone's actions
Yeah.
and the psychological causes that might contribute to why they took those actions, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
I think that something that we hear a lot of now with regard to certain types of people. I think within the U.S. it might be fairly obvious exactly what types of people I'm talking about, but we hear descriptions of like, this person isn't a bad person. They have a mental illness, or they are struggling with some kind of illness. And I think there's a real tension there, right? Because we want to acknowledge, we don't want to dismiss the validity of somebody who actually is dealing with something that is psychologically diagnosable and needs help with it. But
Yeah.
we also can't afford for a society to fall into a mentality where when somebody is behaving in a way that is what we consider to be immoral, or behaving in a way that is damaging to other people, we don't call them out on it, right? So
Right.
I think there's a tension in society now that it kind of exists between the acknowledgement of mental health being a real thing that we need to worry about, theories about things that are completely untrue and are deeply harmful to society. So, for
Right.
example, conspiracy theories that relate to COVID-19 that have caused deaths. You know, that the ideas that circulate around COVID that are completely untrue, and in many cases are spread by people who know that they're completely untrue. And then on the other side of the coin, you've got people who are engaging with these ideas because potentially there's some kind of mental health issue going on. And it's a difficult question for society to solve, I think, because we can't get to a point where we don't call people out for actions that are harmful, but
Yeah.
we can't get to a point where we demonize people who are mentally ill. I'm curious if you have any thoughts on that.
It's one of the oldest human dilemmas. It's the
Mhm.
distinction between what we do and why we do what we do.
Mhm.
And I think through society, we have laws to deal with the things that are permissible and impermissible,
Mhm.
and we've had various kind of wisdom or science traditions to try and understand why we do what we do, and to kind of discourage certain sorts of actions and encourage other sorts of actions. And this used to be, for 2,000 years, this was the purview of the church. And the church, well, I mean, they kind of gave both down, right? So, okay, look, here's the Big Ten. Don't do this, do that. And also here's why, and here's the doctrine of original sin. And so it was very nice, a kind of one-stop shop for complete list of behavior, and also an understanding of why there's this struggle in you. Why do I do the things I don't want to do? And why are the things that I know that are good I can't do? That, I think, one of St. Paul's epistles, he talks about that very struggle. I'm trying to paraphrase the verse. I don't know it exactly. So this is a dilemma as old as humanity itself. And one of the things that I think is hopeful and interesting is with the rise of scientific approaches to understand humanity. So things like anthropology, sociology, political science, psychology, neuroscience. We're finally addressing a lot of these questions in ways that are empirical, or are intending to be empirical. And that's where I think we're starting to see progress. So first of all, just the very identification that there are certain states of human behavior that can be defined with a disease model. Oh, well, this is an illness, and that just using that as a metaphor sparks a scientific approach. Well, if that's a disease, what's causing it, and how do we treat it? And leading to things like, all right, the defining of depression, and then the treatments for depression. So back in the I think it was the 17th or the 18th century, Robert Burton writes this very large book, Melancholia. He struggled with lifelong depression, and he wrote this gigantic book about it over many years. And a lot of it is just basically his struggle to understand what is this thing. Why am I not happy? And what is, how does this tie into God? How does this tie into the world? And what can I do about it? And so even that can be kind of thought of as a sort of an effort to empirically understand what's going on by treating the human subject in an objective way, kind of making that perspectival shift, kind of trying to step out of subjectivity. And that's the beginning of the kind of the scientific inquiry into human beings as individuals and as a species and as societies. And if you think about how that's really only taken off in a robust way in about the last century, right? If we look at the rise of sociology, scientific anthropology, and so forth, these were there in elemental forms early on, but we're really just at the outset. Just imagine where physics was 100 years after Aristotle's idea that a body in motion stays in motion and a body at rest stays at rest. We're kind of there with behavioral sciences, human sciences, social sciences. So get back to me in 500 years.
Well, if anything happens that allows us to still be around in 500 years, I think we'll have made some significant progress. So, we'll have to check in if the opportunity arises. Let's tackle any remaining questions just before because we're coming up on the hour mark here, so I think we can wrap pretty shortly. But let's just make sure we address everything. So, Crow made a point about the urge to take a life. Now, that's a pretty pretty intense sort of topic. But the urge towards any kind of violence or something like that, maybe we could sort of generalize it in that sense. Where in the brain do urges or thoughts like that happen? Interesting question.
Yeah, well, probably that involves, so murderous rage is a phenomenon that's extremely important, and it's part of our evolutionary heritage, right? Because if you go all the way back, and still true to this day, right? For some things to live, other things have to die because we eat them, because we can't incorporate the things we need just directly from rock and seawater.
Not just absorb things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So the entire biosphere is kind of this interdependent ongoing murder at mass scale, right?
Well, that's a weird way to conceptualize life on Earth, but I guess it makes sense.
Because you either murder and eat, or you get murdered and eaten, right?
I mean, this is a funny thing to be hearing from a vegetarian and from two vegetarians, a conversation between two vegetarians, and we're talking about the extent to which life on Earth is just one big murder. Yeah,
and so. To do things, we have to be motivated to do things, and the kind of the evolved triggers to action are emotions. So if there's a threat, then that triggers anger, which then calls forth a certain set of behavioral possibilities in me that aren't there when I'm happy or that aren't there when I'm sad, right? Those emotional states call forth certain behavioral repertoires and make them available to me to behave, hopefully, in an appropriate sense. So one of the issues that people really get tripped up on in therapy over and over and over again is they get extremely anxious about their aggressive impulses, or they get extremely guilty about their aggressive impulses because maybe they grew up in an environment where if you gave your parents sass, that led to violent retaliation.
Yeah.
I'll give you something to cry about.
Right.
And so part of the therapeutic process is saying, okay, look, first of all, we all have these impulses. This is just what it is to be a living thing. And murderous rage is in you and just is. The question is, what are you going to do about it? How are you going to regulate it? How are you going to use it constructively instead of destructively, right? So just about everybody has wanted to strangle their boss. And so what do you do with that impulse? Do you strangle your boss and end up in prison? Do you bury it and come in and let the boss walk all over you because you're so scared of your murderous rage that you and so guilty about it that you let the boss walk all over you and you do all sorts of unpaid overtime? Or do you go to jobs.com and start looking for other jobs and say, I don't think I need to work here anymore? Right? One impulse, three very different outcomes.
Yeah.
So as to where it arises biologically in the brain, probably relates to some of our more ancient, evolutionarily ancient circuits. So in the what we would call the limbic system, and in the amygdala, and sort of those more emotion generating circuits, as opposed to kind of the more frontal emotion regulating circuits. Although that's itself an oversimplification, because emotion generation and regulation is now thought to happen in networks broadly throughout the brain.
Interesting. And then finally, Smithy says he'd love to hear an episode all about sociopathy, not the psycho killer versions, obviously, but those who are perfectly functioning members of society. It's a fascinating subject.
It is a fascinating subject.
It
Yeah.
is.
The psychopath who can regulate impulses. Yeah. Dangerous stuff. Stuff.
And that whole topic, I think, gets a lot of like pop culture coverage, you know.
It makes for great movies and TV, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So that, I feel like that's a topic that we're all sort of tangentially familiar with, but none of us really have any actual info about it. So maybe at some point we can talk about that if you have any experience in that area. But yeah, we've got a lot of stuff that we can break down in future episodes. We got through a lot of great stuff today. So I think that's it's a good spot to wrap it up. I think we've had some great questions coming in, but I hope you guys have enjoyed this. Thank you, Dr. Rob, for being here.
You're welcome.
We look forward to having you back again next week. This is going to be a regular thing. So
this was great. Yep.
Awesome.
Keep those cards and letters coming, folks.
All right. Well, we will do. Maybe something a little bit more advanced than cards and letters. I don't feel like I've I don't think I've given people an address to send stuff to yet. So we'll have to wait until I do that. But we'll keep the questions coming in at any rate. But thank you. And we'll see you again, same time again next week. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, guys. Oops, we got to shut off the webcam in Zoom, and I think we can come back. Are we back? No, we're not back. That's better. All right, we're back. All right, thank you guys. I'm glad you found that interesting, Kat and others. He is a great guy. I'm going to move my webcam back over here because this is my new fancy, slightly side-on setup for you guys. Cool. Crow, I'm really glad that helped a lot. I'm really glad. Really happy to hear that. All caps is okay. We don't have an all caps ban in this channel, so I think we're okay. But yeah, I'm glad you guys enjoyed that. Let me get a little bit of music back, right? Because there we go. That's really loud music. Okay, that's quiet music. This is loud in my headphones. All right, I think that's better. It's a little bit of quiet music, a little bit of background. But yeah, guys, once I was in a channel, banned long messages in all caps. Ugh, why would anyone do that? Anyway. I'm glad you guys enjoyed that. That was really fun. We're going to be doing that every week at this time, so you guys are going to get to know Dr. Rob very well. And you guys are probably going to get to know a lot about the science of mental health. So I also want to say shout out to Ian Leal, who followed me during that interview, and I basically didn't want to acknowledge it because I didn't want to derail things, but thank you, Ian Leal. Welcome to the community. I'm really grateful that Dr. Rob is able to do this every week because I think it's going to be really cool. It's going to be a fun opportunity for us to talk about a lot of interesting stuff. We already had some great topics come up, and hopefully you guys found it useful. I know Crow says he found it very helpful, so I'm really glad to hear that. So now we have a couple options. Yeah, I mean, science is cool, right? We all love to learn about science. Science is great. We have a couple options, guys. We can either... Well, okay. Actually, I was going to say we have a couple options for right now. But right now, I'm going to take a break. I'm going to go on my sort of afternoon break or lunch break, whatever you call it, because I am going to need to, you know, take care of my voice and get a few things done around the house and go have some lunch and things like that. But we're going to come back for a gaming stream later on, and I want you guys to pick what we're going to play. So we're going to do a poll. We're going to do a quick poll. And I'm going to poll the next stream. Kath, if you're going to bed, next stream is Thursday. So same time on Thursday. I'll see you later. I'll see you soon. And thank you, Crow, for being here. It was nice to have you. I appreciate you. And we'll see you guys soon on Thursday. Thursday, we're talking with Jennifer, who is a member of our community and another mental health streamer. I'm looking forward to having a conversation there. Faloyo, welcome. Peace be with you as well. And someone gifted a sub. Yes, indeed they did. Someone gifted you a sub. So I am glad to have you in the sub community now. So what should we play today? And we've got 4 options. We've got Mario Kart. We've got Animal Crossing. We've got Golf with Your Friends. Shout out to Kat who made that suggestion. Or Untitled Goose Game. So Twitter has voted on this, and Twitter voted very much in favor of Mario Kart. But we shall see how it goes. I'm going to start the poll. We're just going to do a quick 2-minute poll while we still got people here. I'm gonna hop off fairly soon once we've done this poll because I got to set up for the afternoon stream. We're going to be back at about 3 p.m. Pacific. Well, we're going to be back at 3 p.m. Pacific. For what I'm calling Tranquility Tuesday. So a nice chill Tuesday afternoon. Can we play golf with your friends with you? Yeah. I don't know how to do that, but you guys can definitely get involved if we play golf with your friends. I don't know if, like, is it the kind of game channel points are enabled so we can vote multiple times? Hey Sloth, you can. I just enabled that. So you can, if you want to use your channel points to vote heavily in favor of one game, you can do that. It's all out there. It's all open. So yeah, guys, you guys can pick what we play, and it might be that Golf with Your Friends. Oh, Golf with Your Friends is gonna get Golf with Your Friends is gonna get multiple votes here. You guys are gonna spam the channel point votes. 5 votes for Golf with Your Friends. 6 votes. Oh, 4 votes for Mario Kart now. And hey, Sloth, welcome, man. 7 votes for Golf with Your Friends. 8. Sloth and Cat just spamming the vote button on Golf with Your Friends the whole time. Team Mario Kart is like, oh, fighting back. Okay, we're definitely doing this again because this poll is getting some good engagement right here. This is way more poll engagement than we usually get. Team Mario Kart is slacking off, man. Mario Kart has got 10. Golf with Your Friends has got 15. Mario Kart needs to make a comeback in these last 10 seconds. Oh, 13. 14. Oh, 15, 18. Oh, 18, Golf with Your Friends. Oh, it's going to be 20 to 15. 20 to 16. Okay. Zcat contributed 1,600 channel points. Cat just throwing those channel points out there. We super love your About Me. Streaming sisters. Thank you. Welcome here. I could do one game and then the other. I could, but I don't have a ton of time. That's the problem. I have a meeting at 5 p.m. Pacific, so we're just going to go maybe 90 minutes, just under 2 hours. It's going to be a fairly short stream, so I don't think I'm going to have a ton of time. Y'all lucky the poll ended. Final Table Boy was going to be out there spamming Mario Kart, so that he was Team Mario Kart, I guess. All right. Well, we're doing more of these polls. We're definitely doing more of these polls with the voting and the channel points. Yeah, we're definitely doing this again. FTB does probably have mad points. He's been in here for a long time and doesn't use his points very often, so he's gonna get a lot of points. He's got a lot of points to spam with you guys. So I feel like every time we do a poll now, we're just going to be doing whatever FTB wants. But anyway, thank you guys. I'm going to wrap it there, and we'll be back at 3 p.m. Pacific. So we're going to be back 54.9k. Holy crap, that's a lot of points. Wow. Thank you, by the way. Thank you for being here all this time. All right, guys, that's it for now. I'll be back in an hour and 49 minutes. So I'll be back at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern. And we will see you guys then. So thank you, everybody, for being here. I'll be back soon. Be well. Bye.